Hey guys, this is Pastor Caleb Beller. I'm the pastor of Calvary Chapel Fullerton, and I am excited to get back together with you guys with George Markey, who is the senior pastor of Calvary Chapel Kiev. As many of you guys know from our previous videos, we had the privilege of serving and working together over on the mission field when my family and I were in Hungary, and he and his family were there in Ukraine. And as all of this stuff started to unfold, we got to head back out there with him, and we were part of some of the evacuation and setting up some of what has kind of become the Calvary response, over these last many months. And we've been able to do some videos, and it's been a little while. And we wanted to kind of bring you guys up to speed with some of the stuff that's been happening, in the last couple of months as other Calvary chapels have been coming out and been a part of the relief effort, whether it's been on some of the side, say, with Poland and how we were getting resources in with a lot of what's happening in Hungary and the surrounding European nations with refugees, as well as you've been in and out. You were on a trip just recently with some Calvary pastors, and you were just there, on the front lines with some of the military chaplains that we've been supporting. And there's even some really cool God stuff in terms of open doors, as we cast vision towards the rebuilding and what God's doing right there in Kiev, where your guys' home literally was. So George, we're grateful to have a few minutes with you. I know you're home there with the family and Sharon and the kids, but let's take a moment and just bring our Calvaries up to speed. Even though they haven't heard from us, doesn't mean there's not been a lot going on the last couple of months, right?
Right.
So you just finished a trip, a couple of months ago. Lloyd Pulley was out there. You had another team of some Calvaries where you guys were back in country, kind of fanning the flame, encouraging some of our other Ukrainian pastors and front lines. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's been like to be going in and out on the front lines? What it's been like to be talking to some of these pastors who've been supporting and navigating all this kind of stuff. Give us a quick update on kind of the status of what that's been like.
Yeah. We've been privileged to be working with some very amazing men and women. You just mentioned the chaplains. I mean, they're in the front lines doing just amazing work. Our Calvary people, continue just to serve and just incredible opportunities for the harvest. People's hearts are just open. And there's, of course, refugees, IDPs all over the country. And, their hearts are, it kind of reminds me of the 90s, back when the Iron Curtain fell, just a hunger. And so what we've been wanting to do, we've kind of we continue to help. The humanitarian situation is still dire. I mean, especially right now with shortages in water, electricity, and heating and all such. The winter's coming. At the same time, we've been also trying to move more into discipleship, really taking advantage of this spiritual harvest and bring people to Christ. And so that was one of the reasons I was with the chaplains, was saying, hey, we want to come alongside you and in your amazing work to be able to help you better, disciple people, bring these people who are just so hungry, and maybe some alternative ways of doing that, because a lot of them are just, they're displaced and they're not going to go into a church building. But because they've been helped, they want to hear about the Lord from these people. So
I mean, people don't maybe realize, I know you're right now kind of the operational headquarters for most of the Calvary ministry has now been right next door there in Hungary, but you've been traveling, Poland, you just got back from Denmark, meaning our network of Calvaries all across Europe, have been connecting with other churches, ministries, have really become kind of that hands and feet, opening up homes, opening up churches, integrating these refugees, both believers and unbelievers, into this place of getting help, of getting connected to community and schools. And so beyond what's happening in the country right now in Ukraine, there's this whole amazing net that's being cast, to try to help rescue, encourage, and equip, the church to love on these Ukrainians. That's what we've been hearing reports of, on all this other stuff that you've been doing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we just got back from a trip in Denmark, where right now is about 200 Ukrainians coming out, meeting us once every 2 weeks And these are unchurched people, or maybe from the Orthodox Church, a few evangelicals, and they're hungry. I've never seen anything like it. And of course, they're coming out of these very terrible places in Ukraine, but Christians are providing community for them, something they crave, and of course help, the immediate help that they need. So we were just there trying to figure out, like, how do we come alongside this to help raise up leaders, disciple people, so that they're going to be able to, not just come to these meetings, but then be able to take what they're hearing and really going deeper in that, and then passing it on to the other Ukrainians. And I just see the potential of just a huge explosion of gospel going out, God's getting expanding, and not just reaching Ukrainians, but then expanding into these, reaching Europe. And here in Hungary, we have about 300 families that we have on our list that are outside of Budapest and have much greater needs because they don't have the access to the aid like in Budapest. And our goal has been to connect them with local churches, local believers, get the believers mobilized, and with a vision that, hey, these guys, what they really want is community. And when you provide that, you're bringing them into the body of Christ. It's a beautiful way just to evangelize and disciple them, because they're experiencing the love through physically, but also now, and again, their hearts are open. They want to know. They have questions, spiritual questions. They're asking those big questions, and we're seeing it happen. I mean, it's just before our very eyes, like these amazing things.
So awesome to see as they're fleeing, they're running right into the rescue, of the church. That was part of the long-term big picture that God began to give you. But urgently, immediately, like you guys have been, like we talked about for months leading up to this, the winter's coming. And so the team, a number of different Calvary connections, we are helping still work with the emergency situation in Ukraine, which is dire in terms of food and heat, and some of the basic supplies, medical, like that's still a big part of what Calvary Chapel is doing, is kind of becoming still those inroads, through some of our resource centers and, front lines guys, if people are wanting to still contribute to the hurting and the war torn there in Ukraine, like that's still a big part, even with all this other stuff going on, that's still a big part of what we're doing, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, we just put out a word for generators for Starlink, because there's, we want our churches and ministry centers to become hubs, and many of them are this way, where people can come, during a blackout, to come and get water, get electricity, get warm, be able to connect on the internet, charge their devices, and so we're actually working very much on that, and people are giving, and we, the needs are still there, so that's definitely a need we want to focus on. Yeah.
And we'll put that link in this email. I mean, we've been so blessed. I know Pastor Joe, over there in Philly, you just had Pastor Lloyd out there, Pulley, he was there kind of front line seeing this stuff, Phil down in San Diego, Horizon up in Indy. Like we're seeing the churches, both sending people to come out to help, but also as we're getting this word out and say, man, we have these needs, we can get these resources. These churches are stepping up, but there's like the harvest is plentiful, the labors are few. Like that's definitely something that people can partner in, during this winter season. But I know there's one other thing that was kind of urgent, exciting. Your guys's old home, the center, the hub, of kind of Calvary there in Kiev. Something has kind of opened up there in terms of this, ministry hub, like a 24/7, hope center, people coming in, but beyond just the doors being open, an opportunities presented itself, with that building, in terms of the ministry. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the whole story of how we got this apartment building is amazing. It was a few years ago, just miraculous, because we're in downtown Kiev, and actually we never planned to be downtown Kiev. We wanted to plant a church somewhere on the edge of town, but God just closed all these doors and put us in the center. Then, we actually had to find a new apartment at one point, and God gave us this amazing apartment with a 4-story apartment, which is unheard of in downtown. Our friends ended up from the States bought it and rented it to us. And so we began a ministry in downtown Kiev to secular people, to people who are not churched. It was a church, you could say, without walls, and so we were trying to bring the church to people, and there's a lot of influential people here in the center, movers and shakers, young people that just want to come and change the world. So we were making inroads and seeing people draw close to Christ. And actually right now we're actually reaping that harvest as well. There's people coming to Christ and beginning now to share their faith. But through that experience, we got to, we see how this experience is useful right now during the war, because we really need to take the church to people right now. There's refugees all around us and in the parks, and what needs to happen is we're seeing it happen. But as believers go out, meet these people who are just in shock, or just, you need to go to them and really create community around them in these different contexts. So anyway, this apartment has been used ever since we fled Kiev. But there's been refugees in it. There's people, volunteers in it. Of course, our Christian friends there continue to reach out to the community, continue what we were doing, using those connections and for the gospel, partnering with, coffee shops, other people. And so what has happened now is that their owners want to sell, and we've always had on our heart that this is the place that God has put us. And so right now what we have is there's a young couple that we've been mentoring, and now they're continuing this church. And so they've taken steps, and now they have a team of young people around them, and they're actually living together in this apartment, doing discipleship, helping them, just by sharing their lives with them. But also other people, young people, come from the neighborhood, from around, just to, because they feel this warmth in this community, and they're getting touched. And so it's been a kind of a youth center, a space for youth to come and just use their gifts and talents. They're also they're doing projects to help people during the winter. So they're sewing fleece blankets, and also hiring actually refugees to do that, so they can have a livelihood, but also helping other refugees, by making these blankets. Some innovative stuff like coffee briquettes for wood burning, in the church, in Bible studies, going on at the same time. And there's always something happening there, and then there's also been a center of kind of training and modeling how to do church among refugees. So and so they have connections to the Baptists, with some other groups that are doing some frontline stuff, really reaching people that haven't been, that maybe other people wouldn't reach, but and also networking. So our goal is, the goal is to kind of is to be sharing the love of Jesus, discipling people, and then equipping them to go and reach others, and kind of this multiplying effect. So,
and now this building has come for sale, like with all the war
Yeah.
stuff and the things that have been going on. I mean, it's been, by God's grace, kind of a protected little section, but I mean, it's right there in the historical section, like you said, of Kiev. But there's an opportunity now that the church has at a discounted price because of the ministry that you guys have had there. They're offering to sell it to you first versus to somebody else, where the ministry could like actually expand. And so, we're talking with other churches, because this might be, I mean, you and I were kind of joking as we were praying about this, but like that story in Jeremiah, like the field of Anoth, where the Lord, told him ahead of time, like, hey man, go plant your flag. Like they're going to come back, and just kind of getting that anchor of promise in terms of, keeping this idea of the future ministry, the expanded growth, and just not missing those opportunities. And so we're going to put a link to a PDF that you guys put that kind of details the ministry, as well as, beyond the general fund that people have been contributing to with, the generators and all that. If there's people that would like to be a part, if their hearts are stirred, and helping maybe, the church buying this property to get, this, to get this foothold right in the center of Kiev, to keep this light, burning. That's an opportunity right now, over the next week or so, where you guys are in these discussions. That's a real opportunity, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we want to invite you to help in making this. Yeah, we be believers in it, but we're excited about involving others, and to even not just give towards it, but be able to be part of it and see and be just inspired by what God's doing.
Because this might be a hub, for future, when teams are coming in for training and the other things that we're doing. I mean, we're already seeing that this is a hub for equipping, discipling, kind of being kind of like what we have there in Hungary, but right there central in Ukraine, in Kiev. Like this has been our hub for doing that. And so being able to kind of plant that flag would be just an amazing. And obviously if the door closes, but we're believing that God's opened this door and has given us the opportunity to walk by faith. So kind of getting this message out. today. So for anybody that's interested in kind of tracking along this vision, this journey, a couple of months back for Calvary, you started a website, that people can kind of stay engaged with the stories, the testimonies, the needs, that kind of stuff. Tell us, while we've got a couple of seconds left, where people can stay up to date, in terms of that website. What's that website that's kind of been our hub?
Yeah, it's bridgeua.org. Because we see ourselves as a bridge, between like the West and Ukraine, and or we're in the European countries, we're a bridge between the locals and Ukrainians. And so, yeah, Bridge UA, and so just go to bridgeua.org, and you can see some of the stories that have been going on.
Sounds like a silly question for Americans. They're going to say, "Why the UA? What does UA mean?"
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, UA, Ukraine. That's the two-letter abbreviation for Ukraine. Oh, and here's the shirt we just come up with. So Bridge UA.
Love it. So we'll put that link right there in the email when we send it out. Obviously we've had such amazing experience with Calvaries all over, the states, who partnered with us, with the chaplains on the front lines, as we were getting cars, as we've been getting, things out. And by all means, if people are wanting, maybe they've got resources, maybe there's other people wanting to connect, they can reach out to you directly. If they've got questions about this, we'll put your email again, right there in the link. But again, we're just so excited to see, how God has created this global ministry in terms of training, equipping, discipling refugees, how he's given you access to all this frontline stuff. So we know when we get funds in your hands, resources are actually getting to the people in need. And then to see these doors open up, where we're getting anchors into the future, rebuilding, the growing of, the church there in the midst of the darkness. So, George, I know you're busy doing 100 other things, but just taking the time to get this out here, we're so grateful to hear from you. We're so grateful to see the smile on your face as you guys are, just going 1,000 miles an hour. And we obviously want people to be praying for you and locking up arms. So we'll get this link out and this video out ASAP. Anything else that you want to say as we close out with the Calvary pastors?
Yeah, well, just pray. I mean, prayer is where it's at. And so just, if you're many miles away, but you can be praying for us. And we definitely feel those prayers.
And for people that would like to come out, I know we've been hosting teams, all over in the surrounding countries. We'll get them in contact with you or Lisa Collins, who, for years has kind of been our point person with navigating all of this stuff. One of our other missionaries, will put her in the link as well. So if any of the Calvary pastors are wanting to bring a team or figure out how they can be supporting along, international lines, we'll get that link out to them as well. George, we love you. We're excited to partner with you in this, and we'll get this video out, and then we'll get a couple more follow-ups as this information becomes more and more up to date. So blessings to Sharon and the kids, and we'll go from there.
All right. Thanks so much, Caleb. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, George.
Bye-bye.